Finish this sentence with me. If you don't have anything nice to say, it's a truism that we were all raised with clearly. An indelible image on my brain is Thumper, the bunny from Bambi, with his paws behind his back, saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. And if this is a universal value, it is perhaps even more emphasized in the Jewish community. Jewish tradition is adamantly opposed to gossip. The Torah commands, do not go as a talebearer amongst your people. The Talmud sees gossip as the most dangerous of weapons. In Tractate Shabbat, it is written, a person's tongue is more powerful than his sword. A sword can only kill someone who is nearby. A tongue can cause the death of someone who is far away. And the Talmud also states that gossip has three victims. The speaker, the listener, and the subject are all potentially harmed by it. Our tradition delineates between different kinds of gossip. Most of it falls under the broad category of lashon hara, evil speech. Talebearing, or rechilut, is a particular kind of gossip, reporting to someone what another person has said about them. And perhaps most egregious is motzi shem ra, the bringing about of an evil name, saying untrue or slanderous things about a person and harming their good name. In this week's Torah portion, we learn about the communal concern of a mysterious skin disease, a scaly white affliction called Mitzora. The Parsha never states the cause of this ailment, but Jewish tradition has understood that Mitzora is related to Motzi Shem Ra. This terrible affliction is the punishment for gossip. This is what I grew up hearing over and over again, that a Jew should never gossip. It was a truism I never really questioned. This is the interpretation of the Torah portion that I studied with Natalie and Lucy as we prepared for tomorrow, when they are going to give you some brilliant insights into gossip and Mitzora. But in talking to the two of them and learning with them, it really challenged me to think about gossip in a new way. Maybe we need a more nuanced message about gossip in the 21st century. So while Lucy and especially Natalie are going to be our teachers about gossip tomorrow morning, I want to add my own thoughts as well. Most of our modern understanding of the Jewish values related to Lashon Hara come from the work of a late 19th century Lithuanian rabbi named Israel Meir Kagan, who was known by the name the Chofetz Chaim. While he was influential on a number of topics, he made his biggest impact writing books on the ethics of speech and gossip. And he was strict. My teacher, Rabbi Maggie Winnig, writes that the Chofetz Chaim argued that we're forbidden, amongst other things, to discuss a person's negative character traits or to mention his misdeeds, even to a person who witnessed them, to make derogatory remarks about someone, even when the information is common knowledge and even if it would cause no harm, to convey a negative response about a person through hints, hand motions, facial expressions, coughs, winks, tone of voice, all of that the Chofetz Chaim forbids. And not only that, we are also forbidden to listen to or sit next to someone who speaks Lashon Hara. We're forbidden to praise another person excessively, for doing so might provoke the listener to disagree. The Chofetz Chaim forbids us to make a seemingly neutral comment like, "Have you seen Sam lately?" for it might prompt others to speak ill of them. A person who follows these rules would spend most of their day not saying anything at all. And my understanding is that this is just what the Chofetz Chaim did. And when I read these rules, I have a hard time imagining anyone keeping them. I have a hard time imagining keeping them for myself for more than a day. Not only does it sound difficult, it seems divorced from how human beings communicate. Much of our conversations are about other people. One researcher found that discussions between two people about an absent third account for around 2/3 of all discourse. The Chafetz Chaim seems to want us to cut our conversations by about 66%. And if that was hard for the Chafetz Chaim's students in the 21st century, it's darn near impossible. We live in an age of gossip. The Washington Post and the New York Times read more and more like tabloids. I am not a person who cares about the British royals, and yet I have bought groceries, so even I am vaguely aware that some of them are having marital trouble. And if we are supposed to remove ourselves from any conversation where someone else is speaking Lashon Hara, then we are all going to have to delete our Twitter accounts. But if what the Chafetz Chaim was saying was only hard, that would not be a good enough reason to ignore him. He paints a picture of the destructive nature of gossip, how it spreads and festers like mold in the corner of our house. He famously had a person ask him if there was any way to get back his words after spreading a rumor he regretted. The Chafetz Chaim hands the man a feather pillow and instructs him to take it outside, slit it open, and shake its contents into the wind. When the penitent returns with the empty pillow, the Chafetz Chaim says, "Now go collect the feathers." But modern social science is showing us that gossip is not all bad. Gossip builds group cohesion. One study showed that hearing gossip about others made research subjects more reflective, that positive gossip inspired self-improvement efforts, and negative gossip made people prouder of themselves. Gossip gives us valuable information about norms and expectations. The anthropologist John Beard Haviland writes, "Gossip provides an individual with a map of his social environment, including details which are inaccessible to him in his own everyday life. The map which a man has of the community around him, of what's going on and how he should respond to others, is a map created by the spoken word." The evolutionary psychologist Robin Dunbar has shown that gossip is one of the primary tools that has allowed human creatures to grow past small communities in which our ape ancestors lived. Gossip is not only valuable, it is deeply and fundamentally human. And we should not talk about gossip without talking about gender. The etymology of the English word gossip is fascinating. The early root of the word is godsibs, close family members. In the Middle Ages, when a woman went into labor, she would be sequestered and attended to by close female family members who would help her through the birth and stand for the child at baptism. It's the same root as the modern term godparent. The godsibs would inevitably talk and share stories, and this word gossip came to refer to these conversations of love and support. Over time, it started to get the connotation of idle chatter, and it never lost its association with women. There's often a gendered component to conversations about gossip. When men do it, it's called talking shop or networking or inside baseball. But when women do it, they are gossiping, they are clucking hens. The Chinese proverb says, "The tongue is a sword of a woman, and she never lets it go rusty." Leave it to a proverb to be a little bit judgy. A few years ago, the activist Rachel Sandalow Ash wrote an article in the Jewish feminist publication Lilith. She talked about her great-great-great-grandfather, the Chafetz Chaim. She pointed out that in his day, women did not study Talmud and yeshiva, and they were excluded from political activity. So women talked about work and family and the ins and outs of everyday life. In other words, she says, when and where women could not talk about ideas, they talked about people, and a topic of conversation that the rabbis termed gossip. It's hard for me now not to read the Chafetz Chaim's admonitions against gossip without this gendered lens. And in the last few years, in the #MeToo era, we have learned a lot about the power of gossip, not just to draw people together, but to offer them protection. In her Lilith article, the Chafetz Chaim's own descendant talks about being in college and leaving a party with a boy only to get a text message from a friend warning her that he had a reputation for, in her words, being pretty bad with consent. And she was able to end the date before it began. In the last few years, I have learned a term, whisper network, something that has maybe always existed, but I had the privilege not to need to know about. Whisper networks are the way that women passed information about the Harvey Weinsteins of the world to try and protect other women. Are they a great method for holding these abusers to account? Absolutely not. But whisper networks are, as journalist Mariah Donegan writes, a long-standing partial remedy. When gossip is a tool, sometimes the only tool of the oppressed and the powerless, it's not hard to see admonitions against gossip as a strategy to preserve the status quo. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure that the Chafetz Chaim would consider whisper networks to be gossip. He concludes his book on gossip with a section on Lashon Hara Litoelet, gossip you must share. He writes about warning a friend before he goes into business with someone you know to be dishonest, or before she marries someone you know to be dangerous. He explains how one must be exceedingly careful in sharing this information, but that one is, in fact, obligated to share it. Had the Chafetz Chaim known of whisper networks, he might have wanted to place some rules and procedures to protect all parties, but I'm not sure he would have banned them outright. So where does this leave us? Many of us in this room have been gossiped about. We know it can be hurtful when people share rumors or private information behind our backs. And yet I would be shocked if there was a single person in this room who, between last Shabbat and today, has not broken one of the Chafetz Chaim's rules, has not spoken negatively or even positively about an absent person. It's how we relate. It's how we learn how to be in society and how we share sometimes vital information. It builds bonds of closeness and community. I know now that in 2019 I can no longer teach the lessons I was taught, that gossip is always bad, always hurtful, always wrong. So what do? Do we write off the Chafetz Chaim as dated and out of touch? Do we give up and accept that gossip is here to stay, so why fight it? Does the sexist history of the term gossip mean that we have to reclaim it so that what was viewed as only bad can now be only good? I would suggest, perhaps unsurprisingly, that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. I think we can neither afford to be careless nor overly fastidious with our words. We needn't let the Chafetz Chaim ban all speech, but we must also welcome him into our conversations. Our tradition teaches that our words have incredible power. Words were the very building block that God used to create the universe. And at the same time, the Talmud is not wrong when it says that they can be dangerous weapons. They have the power to destroy lives. Knowing that every utterance is an opportunity for creation and destruction, for help and for violence, we cannot afford to be thoughtless. The Chafetz Chaim wants us to be vigilant, to consider each word carefully. To do so would be a difficult practice, but it might just save a life. The Chafetz Chaim has a 7-step process for deciding whether Lashon Hara is Litoelet necessary. 7 seems like a lot of thought to put into every word. My teacher, Rabbi Maggie Winnick, simplifies it to 3. 1, take note of everything you say about another person or about a group of people. 2, refrain from repeating anything you do not know firsthand to be true. 3, each time you are tempted to speak about another person, ask yourself, is there a better way to accomplish my goal? For example, to become closer to this listener, to help a friend, to correct a problem. Rabbi Winnick suggests that we try this for just 1 week. So perhaps we could commit to that. Between this Shabbat and the next, we could strive to be more vigilant about what we say, present to our words and the impact they have on others. If we were to do that, I imagine that next Shabbat would truly be a Shabbat Shalom, a Shabbat of peace.